Hello, Great Couch family. This is Stanley.
And this is Otito.
Welcome back
Yep.
to the Great Couch. Even though we're not on the Great Couch right now, but on the Great Couch, we like to say that life and marriage is not black or white, but many shades of gray. And we are here to explore those many shades of gray and what they mean for improving your marriage, improving our marriage. And welcome back. So coming off last week, we talked about sleep and how sleep is a very necessary ingredient for your mental, marital, emotional health. And I just want to confess that I've not been getting as much sleep as I hoped I would.
Okay.
But I'm going to fix that. So this is what are we talking about this week? This week we wanted to bring the issue of how old you are in your marriage. And stay with me here. The culture that we come from, right? Age is a big deal.
Yeah.
You have to respect your elders. You have to almost be different to your elders. And the idea is that the older you get, the more wise you are. But what I have discovered in marriage, and maybe you have to in your marriage, is that though you might be 15 years old in your marriage, some people in the marriage, and I'm not going to call which names, might actually be 2 or 3 years old in the marriage. So it's easy to grow chronologically. You gain a year free, as it were. As it were. I'll put that in there. But then, I mean, are you really growing emotionally? I found out that even though we've been married for 15 years, I'm not really 15 years old in marriage. Don't let the gray hair fool you. Don't let the gray hair fool you. Don't let the gray hair fool you.
Right?
So there's a lot of emotional immaturity, and it puts a strain on marriages. It puts a strain on your relationship. So what do I mean by emotional immaturity? I'm going to give you 1 or 2 pointers. See if you or your spouse fall into that category, right? So the first one is you are looking for your spouse to do everything for you, and you're upset when they don't do it for you. I can give 1 or 2 examples. I come back from work and I'm expecting there to be food. We trash this out of a different episode. That's one. Another thing is that you are driven by instant gratification. That is, if I want this video game now. Okay, I shouldn't use a video game,
Because you don't play video games.
Yes.
So okay.
I want this gadget or toy now,
Okay.
and I'm going to get very, very upset or petulant if I don't get it. You come out my body language and this thing. I'm just being frank and honest with you guys. Or the other one, I tend to withdraw or subconscious, like a emotional blackmail or manipulative with the person when I get sarcastic in my conversations. Essentially how a teenager would behave if he's been told he can't do something or he can't get something. And then I guess another one is ego. I'm being ego driven and viewing disagreements as a personal attack. Those are the signs I would say that come to mind for emotional immaturity. And if you're watching this with your significant other, don't look at them right now. This has been difficult. This has been difficult to do, as it were. I'm just being frank. It's been difficult to do. So, but then let's flip it on the other side, right? How do you know? How do you know if you're on the mature side? Or how if you're mature? Okay. And I'll throw one there. There are a lot of stressors out there. I'll throw one there whereby you are severely stressed, though, either by a response your spouse gave or by what's going on at work, but you are able to, maintain your composure and articulate clearly what your values are and why you want to stand. So this is not going to a shouting match or a shouting competition. You're just going back and forth and articulating, okay, this is how I think, and this is how I feel about this, and how can we bring that to bear, Another thing is you respect your spouse and give them their space to be different, to disagree with you, and in the hope that, okay, you will come to a compromise or something, like a decision that is better than either person's half by themselves. But Tito is smiling now because she knows that I'm sitting on eggshells right now because these things are very, very challenging to do in the heat of the moment.
Yeah.
It's easy to analyze backstage, but these are like pressure points or pain points that you have. And then the last one that I want to talk about now, there are many more, I'm sure, but you're in tune with your feelings. And what do I mean by that? As in, you're getting angry, you're able to pause and say, why am I getting so upset? What exactly about this thing is infuriating me? Whether it's the way your spouse responded, it's the way the kids are acting, even if you tell it's something that happened to me at work and I'm just bringing back home. Again, extremely, extremely difficult to do, but these are signs of maturity, and then you can. So the big question and what we want to try and throw out and tease out at you this episode is, how can you go from this point of emotional immaturity and take baby steps towards this point of emotional maturity, because it will add life to your relationship, as in fights will not be as protracted, and they can actually be constructive.
Okay, I've been sitting down here like the good wife, right? Just listening to Stan, and so you think to yourself, oh, he's saying all these things. How does the other party respond, or what is the role of the other party? Right, we've talked about differentiation on this channel, and we'll probably bring it back, but because these things are ever going, you kind of find out that you can't do one without the other. And so as the spouse, right, as the person is trying to improve on their thing, or maybe they come in with that emotionally immature response, your role as the other party is not to take it upon yourself. That's essentially differentiation, right, in that sense. But that's a whole totally different episode that we'll go into next time, where we'll do issue then differentiation, the differentiated response. But I wanted to talk about the fact that it's not just men, right? He's giving his own point of view and his own peculiar, I guess, issues, right? Because everyone has different things that they go through. But the women too, have issues with emotional immaturity. And what can that look like for women, right? It could look like being manipulative. Yeah, and when I talk about manipulative, it's not just the spouse, it's also the children, right? Like, if you love me, you'll do this. I can't believe I did X for you and you're now doing Y after everything I did for you, right? I guess those might be some sort of familiar sayings that you've heard, right? So that's one, that idea of trying to emotionally manipulate, emotional blackmail, that's what I call it. And the truth of the matter is that some of these things don't end. Like, if you have older parents, you can probably tell that they've used some of these techniques on you. And so the idea is, as you're maturing, don't use it on your children, right, or on your spouse. But again, another conversation for another day. So that's one. Another one would be this concept of talking too much. Yes, I said it, right? Talking too much can be a sign of emotional immaturity, right? Remember, Stanley said, equate it to the children, equate it to the developmental stage, right? Who here has had a child who at the end they are just like, OMG, can you just be quiet, right? Can you just be quiet and let me think? So as a woman, think about that, right? Sometimes you just want to be quiet and let the husband think. Right? So those would be like, two key examples. It's interesting that I bring up this question of quietness, because I'm not a person who talks a lot, but I do have children who do, and I used to when I was younger. Like, I heard that I was like a talking machine when I was younger, but as excuse me, as I've grown both chronologically and emotionally, I guess I don't talk, as much anymore. I do more listening now, which I prefer, actually.
Thanks for that. Not talking too much. I'm just reminded about that. So we're saying how
not talking too much does not mean not talking at all. Let's clarify that right here on screen. It does not mean not talking at all. Let's just clarify it.
So what exactly means not talking?
Not going over and over the issue. That's one, right? Not like, what does the Bible say? That to be in a house with a quarrelsome woman, right? It's easier to be on the rooftop, right? In that sense. So that's what I mean by not talking too much. Yeah.
Okay, so I was asking the question, how do I get from down there emotionally to up here? And I'll be honest with you, it's something that I'm still exploring. I will tell you my go-to, what I've started using, and I think it's helping. You can judge for that. Try and ask myself 3 questions exactly, and this is peculiar to me. Your spouse or you will have different questions for yourself. I mean, I can ask myself, I'm like, I have to slow down and I say, why am I so angry? Why am I so embarrassed? And why am I feeling such shame? Those three things really are kind of circled. I mean, anger is always the top emotion, but when I delve a little deeper, it's because I'm embarrassed and something the kids did or something I think she's looking at me or disrespecting me somehow. And then why am I feeling such shame? Because that kind of builds up. And I mean, just teasing out those questions really helps me de-escalate and slow down, and kind of figure out, okay, if I can answer these questions, I'm working more on me and not necessarily the other person. So you might ask yourself, why are we talking about emotional maturity today? And the truth is that the
health of your
marriage is really predicated on your
emotional maturity. It is. It totally is. And when we talk about health, we're talking about wellness in all its forms, right? Because I can tell you there'll be couples who would be very sexually active, so in terms of their sexual health of their marriage, you say, oh, it's great, but then other areas, right, are not growing as much. So again, emotional maturity ties into that, because if you're using all that activity as a thing of trying to avoid conflict or trying to not face the issues at hand, that's sort of like an avoidance, right? So you kind of have to sit down with the emotional part of it, and then it will filter in very healthily into other areas. Like, so essentially, not one at the expense of the other, I think is what we're trying to say here. And if you can get to the bottom of it, it's the emotions, right? So even as a man or a woman, you want to avoid a difficult topic and then you drag the person into the bedroom, right? 30 minutes of whatever you're doing in there, and then the issue kind of goes to the side, but the issue hasn't gone away until it comes back again. So that's kind
with
of
three of his friends.
Legion. The legion of so that's why we talk about emotional health. Like, you have to get that right, and that adds to the well-being of your marriage. So we're gonna be talking more about this in our webinar. Coming up on the 13th of April, and the thing is how to enhance, right? We're presuming that you're already at some baseline level of well-being in your marriage, right? Physically and otherwise, and you want to learn strategies for enhancing, right? Your well-being, because I mean, who doesn't want to live in a thriving and flourishing state of mind, right? State of mind and state of marriage.
So join us on Saturday, 9 a.m. Eastern and 2 p.m. West African time.
For our friends in Nigeria, we cannot forget you, right? No. Yeah, so don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And if you know anyone that the content right on the Breakout channel will bless, you wanna just share it right with them. So see you. Bye bye.